thing is too is that no drones. We had somebody once wanting to set up a drone inside the gym or something like that, so no drones. You can have your, I know it's like, I think it would be pretty cool to have a drone flying above the kids as they're running around, but the drone comes out of the air and somebody runs into it. No, we're not taking that liability on. All right, what do we got next?
Well, life insurance double.
Yeah. If the only people that are in the square are the players that are participating in that game. All right, so your other kids, they're behind your team line and seated. And the reason why they're seated is because people have paid to watch. And it's not that big of a deal when it's Sparkies, but the Trek and Journey kids, they're giants, okay? And people can't see. As a coach, you can stand the whole time if you want. I don't care, but you got to be behind the line when the games are being played and all that. There's a chain of command for contested calls. All right, I'm going to show the chain of command video or screen here. You as a coach talk to your line judge. Line judges rotate every game, not every heat, but every game they rotate. So if you have a problem and the game is completed, you need to say something to that line judge as quickly as possible. That you have an issue, you thought somebody was disqualified or not disqualified. Whatever the issue is, you bring it to your line judge and they will bring that to the circle director. They may or may not walk you up to the circle director so that you could explain it. And then we ask that you abide by the circle director's decision. All right, we're not doing anything to be vindictive as a circle director or to beat you down or anything like that. We're going to make a call. I will say that there's a lot of rules, and a lot of times coaches don't understand the interaction of some of those rules. All right, if something's a straight out judgment call, like who touched the touch pin in the center first, there's 4 judges and a circle director looking, and where they stand is the best view of the game. All right, we teach them where to stand so they've got the best view, and it's a different view that you and the coach as a coach have well behind the line. We're actually in the playing area. Sometimes we're only feet away from the pin when it gets touched. All right, so we ask that you respect our final decision. Remember, we're trying to maintain a good attitude. I've had decisions made against me as a coach that I thought were just outrageous, all right? But you just take a deep breath and say, it's okay. It's just a game. We're not getting paid for it. Well, I know I'm not. 2 sportsmanship points are handed out for each game, not each of heat. So a game might be the beanbag relay, it might be the Sparky crawl. There's multiple heats in that game, right? There isn't 2 points for each heat, 2 points for each game. You have to do something as a coach or as a player to have these points taken away from you. And unsportsmanship, we'll go over some of that in a bit. It's pretty tough to get your points taken away from you. Let's see, Sparkies, we use a whistle. It's really not a whistle, it's computer, right, making a whistle sound, and it's a horn for Trek, Journey, and TNT for the start of the games. All right, you getting there? You need to pass so many sections to be on the team. I'll be honest with you, we are pretty fluid on the sections portion. I'll give you an example. We had a young girl that was coming to our TNT club many years ago, and they went to the Mormon church in town, okay? I think her parents finally looked at her book one night and were like, what? You know, because it wasn't what they believe, all right? They let her come to Awana, but she just couldn't use the book anymore. They took the book and threw it in the trash. We called up Ken, who was the Awana missionary at the time, explained it to him, and said, these parents are going to come to the Awana games if she's on the team. Can she be on the team? He's like, absolutely, okay? Because we wanted those people to hear the gospel message. That makes sense. All right. What else we got? Wear gym shoes. Everybody on your team is wearing gym shoes, and non-scuffing. All right, so if they scuff up that gym floor, we don't want to be buying a new gym floor. Our insurance can't handle it, okay? So make sure they've got good shoes they're wearing, Sparkies, the knee pad things, make sure they're not going to scar up the floor. Clothing should be modest. The only time we've had problems with clothing is we had some lady leaders years and years ago that wore shorts that were way too short, okay? So the circle director is going to make the final call on that. So be prepared. Think modesty, in how they're dressed, all right? Set the example as a coach in what you're wearing. The meets take 90 minutes, they're spaced 2 hours apart. If you show up 90 minutes early with your team, you're showing up in the middle of the previous meet. So probably a half hour is better to show up. You're going to need to have your team roster signed by your pastor or ministry director, whoever that is. Parental consent forms for each kid, 2 copies, 1 to hand in and 1 for you, all right? Day of event volunteers, that's for coaches. They have to have those signed also. We have coaches meeting 15 minutes before the meet starts. We need at least 1 coach there. And if your kids are all antsy, you might need a coach on the line. So that's why you have the 2 coaches. Older kids, they're fine being on the line for a few minutes while we're all meeting in the middle. Dave?
Yeah, if it turns out that you do come in shortly, like at the time we're setting up the circles, you may just be standing there by the table waiting for us to be able to have someone who can check you in.
Yeah, the first meet of the day, we're setting up the entire gym. So that check-in, we're really not going to be ready for you until about a half an hour beforehand. So
Yeah,
at 8:30, that's when the TNT teams could probably check in.
We may be able to do it a little bit earlier, but until we get the circle set up, we're using the volunteers to be doing that. So just don't come in at 7:15 and say I want to be checking now, because and we have it. We have people coming in, and I want to check in my TNT team. We have people checking in Trek and Journey teams at 7 a.m. Guys, we need a little time to get set up. We haven't got the table up yet.
Maybe we should charge them more. All right, what do we got?
Give them a roll of tape.
Yeah, we're gonna. If you show up too early,
Yeah,
we're gonna put you to work and lifting and carrying heavy objects. So we definitely need your team on the line 15 minutes beforehand, because that's when the coaches meeting starts. We've had teams, not recently, registered and then they didn't have enough kids and they didn't show. And one time we didn't know until like 3 minutes before the meet started. And we suddenly had a 2-way, which we weren't planning on. So that's why we need you there. And Dave's going to be in contact with you via email and all of that after your teams are registered. We get your email addresses. Make sure your kids know 2 Timothy 2:15. We prefer King James because it sounds a little bit better if everybody's saying the same version. It doesn't matter if they've got it in a different version. But we do ask that they know that, because we're going to ask all the kids to say it, and anyone in the gym who knows it. There's medallions, there's ribbons. What else do we have, Dave? You have pins for teams?
Yeah, we have a request to put it closer because it's being blurry. So, and it's not so much that you're blurry as the screen there is blurry. So we'll see.
All right, is that better?
I'll check texting to see if it's better.
Yeah, text Dave if it's better. We tried this in the previous years. We're running it all from one computer, but then we can't see the Zoom screen at that point. Anyway, all right, so there's ribbons and medallions. There's, I believe we might have pins for the participation. I'm not sure on that. Dave will let you know in the emails that go out as to what to expect there. All right, some quick rules here that we got. Sparkies, the games that end in the middle have a pin and a beanbag. We used to do that for TNT and everybody else, but we don't do anymore. For the older kids, it's touch pins or scoring pins, 1 for each team. They're colored. Sparkies and TNT, you need to compete in at least 3 games. Tag rule only applies in 3-leg race. We'll talk about that in a second. All these are in the rule book, I believe, and if they're not, they're in the addendum, and we'll email out the slide deck if we have to you all. Floor markings. The tape is really not that big, okay? The widest part of the tape, or widest tape we have is 1.5 inches, Dave, right?
2 inches.
2 inches, all right? The circle line is only 1 inch. So there's not a lot of wiggle room here. If you're behind the line, that's too low.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it a little bit better. You need to be closer. If you're behind the line, great. If I can still see a little bit of the line, you're still okay. If the judge cannot see the line at all, that's when your team's disqualified, all right? And lines do matter in TNT Track and Journey. In Sparkies, not so much, okay? And we'll talk about Sparkies in just a second. Here we go. It's that second. We're going to start going over Sparky games now. We're going to go through all 6 Sparky games quickly, and then we'll do TNT Track and Journey games. Quick thing about Sparkies, judges go out of our way to not disqualify your team, all right? We've had kids run the wrong direction in running games and that kind of stuff, and we didn't disqualify them. It takes a lot to get disqualified. I mean, you've got to be running 3 feet inside the pins to be disqualified. First game in Sparkies is called Sparky Crawl. The kids are evenly spaced across the line here. So depending on your team size, you can have 10 kids. You might, if you've got Division 4, you've only got 5 kids, all right? And they're behind the line on their knees, okay? And you've got a coach that's standing down here, right? You got one coach here, one coach down here, okay? The team is going to cross. While everyone's crossing, the circle director is going to put the center pin and beanbag out. Once your last player gets their hand across the line, you can send your player in for the pin. All right? Don't launch them into the middle, right? You just gently give them a little tap on the back and send them in. We've had people practically throw kids into the middle. All right? They go into the middle, okay? The line judge is watching this line, so he's going to know if your kids got their hand across. Now mind you, if they cross the line and then they cross back over here, they've crossed the line, okay? They don't all have to be across. The rule book states, I think, that everybody has to be completely across the line. Well, sometimes for space reasons in the gym, there isn't enough space for them to get it all the way over there. So we just do it, once they get a hand across, they've crossed, all right? You send your player in. Then the second heat, they go back, same thing. Your coach that's over here now is going to tell that player when to go in. Make sense? How can you possibly get disqualified? Your kids aren't even close to being across and your center person runs into the middle. That's about the only way to be disqualified in this game. All right? 2 heats. We prefer a girl going in for the pin the first heat, a boy the second one. If you can't do that because you don't have those numbers or your boys are all just crazy, right? You don't want to send them in for a pin, that's fine. You can send girls in there. We don't care. We just ask that so that we get enough participation from all the kids. All right? Sparky Safari. This is the one where they've got lots of little stuffed animals, and I'm seeing where they are, Dave, so I don't get thrown at me again. So, little animals about this size, and we. They threw them at me before. Each of your 5 players is going to have 1 stuffed animal. All right? They're going to run around the circle and hand off that stuffed animal to the next player. So your anchor person has got all 5 of them. They run completely around the circle, run in. There's a bucket right there. They're going to jam them into the bucket and grab the center pin or beanbag. If they jam them into the bucket and one of them is spring-loaded and jumps out, we don't care. They put them in the bucket, all right? Just put them in, and if one of them instantly pops out, we don't care. They can still go for that pin or beanbag, all right? How to get disqualified? It's tough. If they're knocking over all the pins, yeah, then we might have a problem. A lot of times in Sparkies, they cross into the other team's zone. For TNT Track and Journey, they would be disqualified. Sparkies were not. But as a coach, it's your job to teach them kind of not to do that. We don't want them accidentally interfering with another team. Does it make sense? All right? We've had people run the wrong direction in this one. It's a lot of fun to watch, and the kids will do well on it. All right? What was that? Oh, I had nothing there. Oh, all right, I think I got all the rules on that one. Balloon battle, as coaches, you've got to help on this one. Ropes go across the diagonals. We need, if you're the red team, we need one of your coaches holding that end, and then over here the green team coach is going to be holding there. You're not holding it up, really high. It's really just to keep the kids in their quadrant. The balloon does not have to go over the rope. It can go under the rope. So we just ask that you have the rope about this high, all right? And the kids will be good. Your kids can be spaced anywhere in here. The circle director launches the 2 balloons at the beginning of the game. Your kids try to knock the balloon and keep it from landing in their quadrant, all right, inside the circle. A line judge is standing here, 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 and here outside the circle. When the balloon touches in your area, they're going to run out there, grab the balloon, and run it to the middle and put it back in the air. Your players don't have to do that, all right? Let the line judge do his job, all right? And he's counting the number of times it hit in your area, all right? At the end of the game, or that heat, he's gonna hold up, or she's gonna hold up like 7 to the circle director, and the team that has the lowest number of hits, that gets first place, all right? Second place is the second most, third place the third. All right, makes sense? There's not a lot of strategy. Some people put a tall kid in the middle, and the rest of them spaced around there. Just keep them so they're paying attention, and they'll do well. Any questions on this one? All right. Sparky in and out. All these dots are here for a large team. You're going to have 10 players on here or 5 players on here, right? Depending on it's an odd or even number, it depends whether or not we're starting with the beanbag in the hand here or the beanbag in that bucket in the middle. You're going to run out, put the beanbag in the bucket. By placing the beanbag in the bucket, if this is the bucket, my hand is over the bucket. I'm not 5 feet away throwing it into the bucket, all right? The reason why we don't like